Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a couple dealing with an unfortunate situation right after moving into a new home. On the very first night, plants, a mesh wall, and a heavy stone garden bench were stolen from their backyard. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Neighbors stole plants and publicly displaying them. I know it might not sound like much, but the plants, along with an entire mesh wall and a stone garden bench, were stolen on the very first night my partner received her new home. She put the plants in the backyard, behind a fence, came back the next morning with the rest of her stuff, and they were all gone. The house had been vacant for months before this, so it appeared to be either a random theft with bad timing for us, or someone saw her move the plants there and stole the stuff that night. The stone bench would have been really heavy too. It's hard to imagine one person hoisting it over their shoulder and carrying it away to their car. Basically, it was hard to imagine a random thief targeting her house for plants, a few square meters of mesh, and a stone bench, and easier to imagine an opportunistic neighbor heaving the stuff to their place. Anyway, she decided not to file a report with the police, considering she couldn't prove who took the plants, etc. And maybe this seemed a bit trivial in the context of these hectic times we're living in. She got new plants, which haven't been stolen. However, we had a closer look today in the front yard of her very loud, bogan neighbors who live almost directly across from her. The garden bench and a few of the plants are sitting in their front yard in plain view. We called the police, but they said they have to state we complained when investigating the property. Obviously, it seems very likely they'll deny they stole the stuff, and then who knows how nasty they could be to her after that. They really do seem like not the nicest people from what we've seen of them. A big family, too. The police also said that this would likely become a property dispute and that the courts are clogged now. We're a bit stumped on what to do next. A police officer has given us her number and said if we want, she'll go over there and ask them about it tomorrow. We have photos of the plants before they were stolen, which we think might be able to prove possession. We've also wondered about writing a less confrontational letter about getting the stuff back in the hopes of a more positive response. I know this might seem a bit over the top, but the plants have a lot of sentimental value to my partner. She got them after a traumatic incident, and the arrogance of the neighbors to just publicly display her stuff like that in plain sight in their front yard does not sit well with either of us. What would you do in this situation? Do you confront the neighbors directly, write a polite letter, or let the police handle it and risk potential escalation? And our second story. Blue home improvement. It all started with a call from my teen daughter. Grandpa went to the store and we haven't seen him in 4 hours. Should we be worried? Maybe. Probably. My dad isn't senile or anything, but he does chase shiny objects sometimes. And he's out of his comfort zone. For context, he lives in an East Coast city of about 30,000 population and is spending the summer in our California city of more than 1 million. So it's possible he's wrecked a car, gotten lost, met a woman. Who really knows? But he's supposed to be with the kids while I'm at work. A few calls and voicemails later with no answer, and I'm getting ready to leave work early to look for him when he calls me to say he's sorry and picking up food for kids' lunch on the way home. That night, we got the story. He ran to the Blue Home Improvement box to get some spray paint for an art project with the kids. He works at the Blue Box in his hometown as a part-time retirement gig to keep himself occupied and is very social. He was upset by the lower standard of employee and store management in our city, including poorly merchandised paint, so he started reorganizing the paint shelf. That led to chatting with missionaries from local branch of his religion that he saw in the store. While he was doing this, a few customers asked for advice and he helped them. Soon he had a line and was directing people all over the store for stuff. Positive comments on his performance were passed to the store manager, who was confused because there was no old short guy working in paint today, and those people didn't often get positive comments from customers. So the manager went to investigate. After the line ran down, the manager stepped up to talk to my dad and got an earful about the low standards of shelf organization and safety compliance observations about a few of the employees. That turned into a store tour and discussion about differences between East and West regions and such. It all ended when I started calling him and he looked at the time. Oops, grandkids are home with just teen daughter watching them. He walked out with a standing job offer to work part-time at local Blue Box anytime he wants to come for a long vacation. And the kids got pizza. So when you're at some random Blue Box and there's a super helpful old guy that seems like he works there but doesn't have a vest on, that's probably my dad on vacation somewhere. Tell him hi for me. And our next story. Karen was annoyed that I didn't evenly divide 7 by 2. I used to work for a company where we went into schools in our area to perform a free 1-hour wacky science show teaching kids the importance of saving water. Our local area relies on aquifers, underground porous rock that stores rainfall for the majority of our water, so it's important to teach kids both about how the water cycle works where we live and about not wasting water. This incident occurred 5 years ago, just came up on my Facebook memories, and it very much fits this sub. Myself and my colleague were at a school in a very affluent area performing in our water show, teaching the kids in our own inimitable, irreverent way. The school had invited parents into the assembly, so we had about 30 or so parents seated at the back of the hall, along with the 200 or so kids. After the show, which went down an absolute treat, my colleague had gone to collect the car, couldn't park near the school, whilst I'd remained behind to tidy up and move all our kit to the front entrance to the school where he would be pulling up. Suddenly, a parent came up to speak to me. Karen, hello, do you mind if I have a quick word? Me, of course not. Karen, well, let me start by telling you how fantastic that show was. Me, waiting for the but. Thank you very much. Karen, but, my internal monologue, there it is. Karen, I was wondering if you noticed that you picked more boys than girls as your volunteers rather than an equal number of each. Me, you're asking me if I realized that I didn't pick an equal number of boys and girls as my volunteers? Karen, yes. Me, yes, I was aware of this, mainly because we need an odd number of volunteers in the show. It's very difficult to keep the numbers of each equal when the total number is odd. Karen looks at me whilst trying to think. Me, did you notice that whilst we picked 4 boys and 2 girls for the aquifer experiment, we picked a girl as the solo volunteer for the toothbrushing experiment, and the toothbrushing volunteer does a lot more than the aquifer volunteers do. So yesterday we did this exact same show at a different school. We had 4 girls and 2 boys for the aquifer experiment, and then a boy for the toothbrush. We always try and keep things as fair as possible. Karen, I'm just saying because my daughters were here today, and I want them to enjoy science. Me, well, hopefully they did. Karen, I also noticed that on your banner, indicates pop-up banner off to one side, that you have 2 boys and 1 girl on that. That's hardly equal. Me, true, but with the size of the banner, 3 children was the right number. 2 would have left too much empty space, whilst 4 would have been too crowded. Karen, then why didn't they pick 2 girls? Me, because we made several mock-ups of the banner and showed them to different children, and the most popular design was that one. Karen, well, I don't think... Me, interrupting. You may be pleased to see that the fun pack that each child gets to take home has 1 boy and 1 girl on the cover. Picks up pack and shows her. Karen, that's nice. Karen walks off. Teacher comes over to me. Teacher, what was that all about? Me, apparently I need to find a way to pick an equal number of boys and girls, despite the total number adding up to an odd total. Teacher, because you didn't pick either of her 2 daughters as any of your handful of volunteers out of 200 children in the school? Me, it would seem that way. Teacher, what did you say to her? Me, basically that 7 isn't divisible by 2, but across multiple schools we try to keep things equal. Teacher, and what did she say? Me, that's nice. She has 2 daughters and no son? That doesn't seem fair. She should have had a son and a daughter by her logic. And our next story. First vacation without kids in 5 years, looking forward to uninterrupted sleep, awoken by party girls next door, gave them an unwelcome early rising. I'm a 41-year-old father of 3 kids under 9. I've never been able to afford a vacation, let alone one without kids. Saved up for a very long time to take my wife on her dream trip to Bar Harbor, Maine. We live in Kansas City. First night after a day of amazing hikes and boulder climbing to scenic peaks in Acadia National Park, we fell sound asleep until 3 a.m. That's when I hear the two 25 to 30-year-old women next door squealing in the hallway and constantly opening and slamming their door. I was young once, partied very hard well into my 30s, and I have a ton of patience. I gave them some grace at first, didn't say anything, fell back asleep, and 45 minutes later, they're even louder through the wall and in and out slamming doors again. I get up to say something and miss them as they're going back in the room. Fully awake, I noticed the "Please do not disturb" sign on their door, which I promptly snatched. Spent 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. reading in the lobby until my wife texted me asking where I was. After we got ready and went out for breakfast, I was there to see the maid knock and enter their room to wake them up and heard their reactions, miserable and hungover. I gave the maid a tip of $50 and apologized for their rudeness. It's the least I could do for making her catch a stray bullet. Update. I'm reading Reddit in the lobby, restless leg syndrome and can't sleep, it's almost 5 a.m., and talked to the receptionist that recommended hikes to us. The people next door got charged a $200 smoking charge and were asked to leave the building because they were climbing from balcony to balcony. Apparently, multiple people called the front desk. Wow. I like revenge, and you executed it well. $50 tip for putting up with two grumpy drunks running their mouths is a good trade. And our last story. Dealing with house intruders during mom's hospital stay. My mom has been in the hospital for a week and a half. She's in her 90s and had a medical incident. She'll recover, but needs to be in the hospital for a bit longer. Got a call from a neighbor of my mom, who's also a longtime family friend, about some people in my mom's house. Yesterday, I went down there in the morning and found that 2 days prior, they had showed up and managed to get access to the house. I probably forgot to lock a door after the ambulance left, and Mom keeps spare keys hanging in the kitchen, so they were able to lock up. I decided that rather than call the cops and wait around for who knows how long, I'd just go in. I have a key as well, after all. Maybe not the best decision, but I was worried that they would steal some of my mom's jewelry or other valuables. After I entered, I found a couple still asleep on my mom's bed. Told them to leave, and they tried to say they were renting the place. We argued about that, and it dissolved into accusations of racism and me calling them bums and thieves just trying to steal from my mom. And I will admit I lost my temper there, but I didn't throw the first punch. He did. We then wrestled for a few minutes before I got the upper hand and managed to take him to the ground. I then drug him out of the house and started grabbing stuff that was not my mom's and tossing it out the door. That was when they called the cops. The police arrived about a half an hour later, and I'd gotten all their stuff out. They began questioning everyone. The police wouldn't let them back into the house, but told me that I should have let them handle it. And when I asked if I was in trouble, they wouldn't say one way or the other. I'm just wondering if you think I'm going to get legal ramifications from all this? The main reason I went in like I did was I've seen the years-long fights that can arise from these things and how much theft and damage can be done to the property. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.